Hello everyone, warm welcome to Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Testbook. My name is Madhav. I welcome you all in a very important session. We call it as Finance Current Affairs, and today we will be covering the Finance Current Affairs for 2nd as well as 3rd of October. So before we start with the discussion, may I have a reply that everything is fine, I'm audible, visible, all good, so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. Quickly everyone. Just give me yes sir in the comment section so that we can begin. Remember that today we will be discussing 4 important amendments, or you call it as master direction, or you call it as circulars, which have been presented by RBI recently. So 4 circulars will be discussed in today's session, and trust me, they all are really very important for your upcoming examination. So let's get started guys. I'll not take much time of yours. I know you all are busy with your RBI Grade B preparation, but trust me, till 11th of October, or I would say 10th of October or 11th of October, these sessions are must attempt sessions. These sessions are must cover sessions. अगर आपने इन sessions को miss किया, you may land up in a situation जहाँ पे एक बहुत important segment आप अपने examination का miss कर दोगे, and you won't be in a position to answer the questions clearly in the examination. ठीक है जी? तो please make sure that you have gone through with the entire content, and that is really very important, trust me. Chalo, let's get started guys. Just give me a second. Okay, so let's begin the discussion without any further delay. If you want to download the PDF of this session or many other sessions which are available on the YouTube, you can download it from the Telegram channel link which I have shared. Let's get started with the first one. The first one talks about the scheme for facilitating accelerated payouts, inoperative accounts and unclaimed deposits. See, we have already discussed n number of times about the inoperative accounts. Inoperative accounts are those accounts in which we have recorded no transaction for 2 years. No transaction means not even the financial transaction, deposit withdrawal, not, and as well as not even the non-deposit transaction, that is balance check, passbook update or something like that. So after 2 years, the account will be declared as inoperative, and if the same condition remains for 10 years, then the account is termed as unclaimed account, and the unclaimed account containing the principal as well as interest is transferred to the RBI's fund. We call it as DEAF, Depositors Education Awareness Fund, and RBI pays a fixed rate of interest of 3% on the funds which have been deposited in DEF. Now, if a customer wants to recover the funds, if the customer wants to claim the funds, customer will reach out to the bank, raise the claim request to the bank. Bank will pay the claim, and then after paying the claim to the customer, bank will generate the claim request on RBI, and RBI will forward the claim amount to the bank. So this is the entire process. I have even discussed with you the timelines where bank will be submitting the claim data. Bank will be submitting the claim data with RBI, and what is the timeline for submitting the claim data every month, and what is the timeline in which RBI will pay the claims to the bank. Can you give me those timelines? Please, we have discussed this. Along with that, we have even discussed that in case of inoperative account or in case of unclaimed account, customer will be fulfilling the KYC norms, and once the customer has fulfilled the KYC norms, then the customer can recover the funds from its account. I hope everything is clear. Even we have discussed about the deceased individual's account also. If an individual passes away, then the account or the funds in the account of the deceased person will be transferred to the nominee or to the legal heir. That part was also discussed. Related to this, there is one more term, that is KYC. Now you can complete your KYC even without going to the bank branch. You can do it with the help of video call. We call it as video person identification, and along with that you can complete your KYC from the non-home branch as well. Even the business correspondents, they are also allowed to accept the KYC updates from the customer. So these are something which is related to one scenario only. But now my question is RBI has already announced timelines to claim unclaimed amount or unclaimed account amount. So what is that timeline? How the claim will be generated? I hope you remember that. No? Anyone? We have already discussed this point. May I have an answer, please? Still waiting. I won't be moving ahead until I'll get the answer for that particular point, because it is really very important. Direct question will be asked in the examination, because it is something which is in news always, and I'm expecting that you all will give me the correct answer because we have discussed it. Last 5 days of the month, that bank claim from RBI, ठीक है, जो आखिरी के 5 दिन है उसमें RBI will be paying the claim. That is correct. That is correct. Or bank will be submitting the claim request to RBI. What is the timeline to submit the claim request? Any idea, guys? No? Yes, that's absolutely correct. चलो जी, क्लियर हो गया. अब इसमें कोई और डाउट है तो पूछ लो, otherwise I'll start with the discussion. So last 5 days, first 10 days of the month, this is something which you need to remember. Coming back to the news. So objective is to encourage banks to actively trace and contact customers or depositors for reactivation of inoperative account. This is the first objective of this new announcement, as well as it will facilitate return of unclaimed amount which is lying with the DEF to rightful claimants in a timely manner. What will happen, sir? It will reduce the stock of existing unclaimed deposit as well as the fresh accretion of the unclaimed deposit. So essentially it incentivizes banks to bring money back to the true owners instead of keeping it idle in inoperative account or maybe under the unclaimed status. Now what is basically announced in this, please pay attention. So this announcement will be applicable to all the banks. It will cover the inoperative accounts as well as the unclaimed accounts, which we have already discussed what they mean. Duration of the scheme, sir, this scheme has been launched from 1st of October 2025 to 30th of September 2026. That means for 1 year. It's a limited time initiative. Eligibility will be inoperative accounts reactivated during the scheme period and unclaimed deposits settled in favor of the rightful claimant during the scheme period. So what all will be eligible? So eligibility will be inoperative accounts which have been reactivated during this year, or the unclaimed deposits which are going to be settled in the favor of the rightful claimant during the scheme period will be included. Payout structure will be bank will receive the differential payouts depending on how long the account remained inoperative as well as the amount involved, that means the capital base or the cap based. Now let's talk about the points, what it says. Bank will receive the incentives. Bank will receive the incentives from RBI. So if the account is in the category of inoperative account, and it is in the category of inoperative account, that means today you have done the transaction and it is less than 4 years or up to 4 years, your account transaction has been done. In that particular case, incentive which will be given by RBI to the bank, it will be 5% of the deposit or 5,000, whichever is less. If the account has not operated for 4 to 8 years, in that particular case, if bank make the settlement, bank provide the funds to the actual owner, or bank reactivates the account, in that particular case, bank will enjoy incentive of 6% or 10,000 rupees, whichever is less. 8 to 10 years, 7% or 15,000 rupees, whichever is less. और 10 साल के बाद it will be 7.5% or 25,000, whichever is less. Whichever is less. समझ आई ये बात? क्लियर हो गया? इजी है, इजी पॉइंट है, इसमें कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है. सो व्हाट इट बेसिकली सेज, अगर मैं इसे कंक्लूड करूं on one single slide, then what will be my conclusion? So my conclusion is RBI is trying its level best to decrease the count of inoperative as well as unclaimed accounts. So in order to push the banks, so that banks should try their level best to make the inoperative accounts operative and to provide the claim of the unclaimed accounts to the true owner or the true nominee or the true legal heir, whatever the case is. So in that particular case, what will happen? So bank will get the incentives from RBI. And what will be the value of incentive? If you have not done any transaction for up to 4 years in your account, that means it has been declared inoperative. Bank will enjoy 5% of amount. That means the deposit value. I'm really very sorry. Deposit value here basically means what? So when we talk about the deposit value, we are focusing on why the word deposit amount is written. So it is basically highlighting principal as well as interest. This is basically highlighting principal as well as interest. So the total deposit. So that is 5% or 5,000 rupees, whichever is less. Second is no transaction from 4 years to 8 years, then it will be 6%. No transaction 8 years to 10 years, then it will be 7%. ठीक है जी, 7% of the amount, or here we have 10,000 or here we have 15,000. ठीक है जी. Lastly, if I say greater than 10 years unclaimed, so in that particular case it will be 7.5% of the amount or 25,000, whichever is less. So you have to remember these incentives. लेकिन ये permanent incentives announced नहीं है. These incentives are announced for only 1 year. The initiative which has been taken by RBI, which is applicable from 1st of October till 30th of September 2026. समझ आ गई बात? Easy है, कोई डाउट नहीं है. ठीक है जी. तो claim submission by the banks frequency will be quarterly every 3 months. So claim submission by the banks. Timeline must be submitted within 1 month from the quarter end. Prescribed RBI format, authorized senior executive. Submission, this is basically the operational formats. You can ignore it. It was given in the circular, तो मैंने यहाँ लिख दिया, but you can ignore it. Moving on to the question now. Let's try to identify what kind of question will be asked. The scheme incentivizes banks for both reactivation of inoperative account as well as settlement of unclaimed deposit transferred to DEF. That is true. Banks can claim payouts on a monthly basis provided submissions are signed by branch manager of the concerned branch. Submission is signed by the branch manager of the concerned branch. Is this point correct? याद करो, ये पुराने सर्कुलर से मैंने एक पॉइंट उठाया. Now I'm expecting कि who all will give me the correct answer from the earlier circular which we have discussed. वो सर्कुलर कब आया था? Any idea guys? जून में, जुलाई में, अप्रैल में, कब आया था वो सर्कुलर? Anyone, any idea when that circular was presented? बोलो भाई. उसमें मैंने पूरा प्रोसेस बताया था that how bank is going to submit the claim in front of RBI around June, around July. ठीक है. याद नहीं है आपको? याद नहीं है आपको? क्योंकि याद होना चाहिए था. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ठीक है, कोई कह रहा है जुलाई में. एनीवन एल्स? सोचो. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है भाई, इसीलिए इतना टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा हूं. यू माइट बी फीलिंग दैट आई एम वेस्टिंग द टाइम, बट इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. जब एग्जामिनेशन में डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन बैठा होगा, इन दैट पर्टिकुलर टाइम यू विल रिमेंबर कि हाँ यार सर ने 2 बार बोला था, लेकिन स्टिल वी इग्नोर्ड इट एंड नाउ इट इज डायरेक्टली आस्क्ड इन द एग्जामिनेशन. वी आर नॉट इन द पोजीशन टू आंसर द क्वेश्चन. सोचिए प्लीज. ठीक है, मैं बताता हूं. सो द विंडो फॉर सबमिटिंग द क्लेम fund shall be kept open in the e-Kuber system during the first 10 working days of every month, and the claim will be given by RBI in the last 5 working days of the month. ये तो 2 पॉइंट्स हो गए. अब दूसरा पॉइंट ये है कि सर व्हाट इज द प्रोसीजर ऑफ सबमिटिंग द क्लेम. अगर मैं प्रोसीजर ऑफ सबमिटिंग द क्लेम की बात करूं, तो ये जो प्रोसीजर था दैट वाज गिवन अंडर, इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग, दैट वाज गिवन इन द सर्कुलर विच वॉज प्रेजेंटेड बैक इन जून. शायद 25-26 जून के आसपास वो सर्कुलर आया था. आई डोंट रिमेंबर द डेट एग्जैक्टली. तो सर्कुलर में पूरा का पूरा प्रोसीजर जो है वो ध्यान से समझाया गया था. वो प्रोसीजर क्या है? सबसे पहला स्टेप है, अगर एक डिपॉजिटर, ध्यान से सुन लो, अगर क्वेश्चन आएगा तो एग्जामिनेशन में आंसर कर लेना। अगर एक डिपॉजिटर बैंक के पास आता है और डिमांड करता है फॉर द रिफंड ऑफ अनक्लेम्ड डिपॉजिट विच इज ऑलरेडी ट्रांसफर्ड टू डेफ, देन बैंक विल claim refund from RBI. If the customer claims only the part of the amount, then bank will activate the account, pay the claim part and keep the rest in the account and lodge the claim for the entire amount with RBI. अब क्या हुआ कि claim जो है it will be first filed through e-Kuber auto generated form which is present. So you have to print the form to get it signed by the authorized officials and certified internal concurrent auditors sent by email to RBI within 3 working days of the e-Kuber submission. With the first claim in a half year or year, bank must also submit the half yearly conciliation. That is also important. ठीक है जी। तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ बैंक क्या है? सब बैंक की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ये है कि बैंक जो है दैट विल रिलाई ऑन द इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन इन फॉर्म 2. Bank need not provide customer wise details in form 2 but maintain such details internally. तो इसका मतलब अगर आपने कस्टमर वाइज डिटेल मेंटेन ही नहीं करनी, अगर आपने कस्टमर वाइज डिटेल मेंटेन ही नहीं करनी और कस्टमर आपका आरबीआई के पास जा ही नहीं रहा, तो अगर कस्टमर आरबीआई के पास नहीं जा रहा तो इस केस में बैंक कैन क्लेम पे आउट्स प्रोवाइडेड सबमिशन आर साइंड बाय द ब्रांच मैनेजर ऑफ द कंसर्न ब्रांच. बैंक कैन क्लेम पे आउट्स ऑन मंथली बेसिस. तो उसमें क्या आरबीआई चाहता है कि आपके पास ब्रांच वाइज सिग्नेचर हुए हो? सर ऐसा कोई पॉइंट नहीं है, ऐसी कोई रिक्वायरमेंट आरबीआई के एंड पे नहीं है. आरबीआई कहता है कि आप हमें फॉर्म 2 फिल करके दे दो, पूरी अपनी लिस्ट हमें प्रोवाइड कर दो, उस लिस्ट के अकॉर्डिंग वी विल बी प्रोवाइडिंग यू दी क्लेम. एंड आपने जो इंटरनल बेसिस पे कस्टमर से जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन लेनी है दैट इज योर इंटरनल प्रोसेस. आरबीआई हैज नथिंग टू डू विद द इंडिविजुअल क्लेम. तो इंडिविजुअल क्लेम की रिक्वायरमेंट आरबीआई के पास नहीं है, आरबीआई को नीड नहीं है इंडिविजुअल क्लेम रिलेटेड डेटा की. दैट विल बी हेल्ड विद द बैंक इटसेल्फ. तो उसके बेसिस पे सेकंड स्टेटमेंट गलत हो गई. Account inactivate for 10 years and above once transferred to DEF fall under the category of unclaimed deposit eligible for payout. Accounts inactivate for 10 years and above, they will be transferred to DEF. They will fall under the category of unclaimed deposit. Are they still eligible for payout? Yes, sir. The payout percentage increase with the aging of account capped at maximum of 7.5 or 25,000 per account, whichever is lower. No, sir, it's not the payout cap. It is the incentive cap. It is basically the incentive which is given to the banks by the RBI. The scheme is a permanent initiative. Scheme is a permanent initiative to reduce stock and flow of unclaimed deposit and has no fixed timeline. No, sir, it has a fixed timeline. अब क्वेश्चन ये आया कि सर फिफ्थ स्टेटमेंट तो रॉन्ग है, लेकिन फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट कैसे आपने गलत की? क्योंकि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट को सही बता रहे हैं. फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट क्या कहती है? द पे आउट परसेंटेज इंक्रीजेस विद द एजिंग ऑफ द अकाउंट कैप्ड एट मैक्सिमम 7.5 और 25,000 पर अकाउंट विच एवर इज लोअर. क्या ये पे आउट परसेंटेज है और इज इट इंसेंटिव परसेंटेज? गिव मी द आंसर. गिव मी द आंसर एवरीवन. सोच के बताओ. व्हाट डू यू से? सर ये तो इंसेंटिव है ना. दिस इज बेसिकली द इंसेंटिव वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. तो अगर ये इंसेंटिव है तो फिर इसमें पे आउट वाला ऑप्शन तो नहीं है. अगर पे आउट वाला ऑप्शन नहीं है तो उस हिसाब से अगर हम देखें तो क्या ये पॉइंट करेक्ट होगा या इनकरेक्ट होगा? सोच के बताओ. सोच के बताओ जल्दी से. इंसेंटिव है, ठीक है. तो उस बेसिस पे अगर हम चले, अगर ये इंसेंटिव है और उसी के बेसिस पे हम चले तो फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट हमारी क्या हो जाएगी? सो दैट विल बी अ रॉन्ग स्टेटमेंट. तो उस हिसाब से हमारा जो आंसर बनना चाहिए दैट शुड बी फर्स्ट एंड थर्ड. उस हिसाब से हमारा जो आंसर बनना चाहिए दैट शुड बी फर्स्ट एंड थर्ड. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गई बात, समझ आ गई? हाँ. अब ये पॉइंट अच्छा, ये पॉइंट अगर हम ऐसा देखें इसको, सो द पे आउट परसेंटेज इंक्रीज विद एजिंग ऑफ द अकाउंट कैप्ड एट मैक्सिमम विच एवर इज लोअर. सो पे आउट टू द बैंक अगर आप ऐसा करें तो ये करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट हो जाएगी। तो अगर मैं इसको ऐसा कर दूं देन आई विल गो विद द फोर्थ वन। समझ आई ये बात अम्मी? अम्मी हैज आइडेंटिफाइड इट वेरी क्लियरली, सो बी ऑप्शन इज करेक्ट। मैं आंसर तो 1 3 4 ही बना के लाया था, बट मैं चाहता था कि ये चीज हमारे लिए क्लियर हो जाए। द पे आउट टू द बैंक percentage increase with the aging of the account. So payout to the bank means the incentive to the bank. Clear? Okay. Let's move on to the next question. RBI authentication mechanism for digital transaction directions 2025. So RBI is saying कि भैया अब जो भी आप डिजिटल ट्रांजेक्शन करेंगे दैट विल बी 2-factor authentication, और उन 2-factor authentication में एक फैक्टर आपका डायनामिक होना चाहिए और दूसरा फैक्टर इज विच इज विद यू, which is with you. With you means या तो dynamic के केस में we have OTP, with you के केस में you have the password, you have the PIN, or maybe it is you only, it is with you or you are there. In that particular case we are talking about your fingerprint scans, we are talking about your fingerprint scans, or we can talk about eye scan. So these can be utilized. So let's try to understand what is the news. Digital payment in India must comply with 2-factor authentication norms. Traditionally, SMS-based OTP has been the most common additional factor. With rapid technological advancement, RBI introduced new guidelines to expand authentication mechanism. Objective क्या होगा इसके पीछे सर? Obvious है ना? Obvious है ना कि it will improve security, it will allow alternative authentication methods, and it will align with the international best practices. It has been issued under the Payment and Settlement System Act 2007. So RBI authentication mechanism for digital payment transaction direction 2025, it will be effective from 1st of April 2026. It will be applicable to all the payment system providers as well as participants. It will cover all the domestic digital payment transactions unless exempted. So authentication basically means what? Sir, authentication का मतलब होता है validation. You are validating the credential of the customers initiating a transaction, which means ki yes, the one who is making the transaction is the actual owner of the account. That is authentication. Factor of authentication में the first one, something you know, that is your password, your PIN, something you have, that is your card or maybe the OTP or maybe the token, and something you are, that is the fingerprint or any other biometric identifications are used. Card present transaction, when when the card is present, as well as you have the POS where you swipe the card to make the transaction. That means card as well as POS, they are present physically and you are swiping the card to make the transaction. We call it as card present transaction. Card not present transaction means abhi Flipkart pe Big Billion Days mein if you have made a purchase using a credit card, in that particular case you have given your credit card number, expiry as well as CVV. In this particular case card is not present means physically. अब मान लो कि आपके फादर का कार्ड है, आपके भाई का कार्ड है, इट्स योर सिस्टर्स कार्ड, यू हैव जस्ट गॉट द images from your father, your sister, your mother, and you're using that card details to make the payment. So that is why it called as card not present. Then we have cross border card not present. Indian cards used to overseas merchants foreign exchange outflow. That means when you use your international credit cards to make the payment outside India, when you are purchasing a good, for example आपने alibaba.com से कोई प्रोडक्ट खरीदा, that time you are making the payment outside India, so that is basically known as cross border card not present transaction. ठीक है, अब इसमें क्या क्या पॉइंट्स हैं? So minimum 2-factor of authentication is required as per the latest directions, which says mandatory for all transactions. Issuers may give customer a choice. Issuer may give customer a choice of factors of authentication. लेकिन उसमें at least एक factor of authentication should be dynamic and unique. That means OTP, which is dynamic, or we can say your dynamic CVV. Dynamic CVV means if you have a virtual credit card, in case of you are getting your virtual credit card issued, every time you get issue your virtual credit card, the CVV changes. So that is a point. We call it as dynamic CVV. Then we have robustness, comprised of one factor must not weaken the other. तो एक फैक्टर दूसरे को वीकन ना करे. अगला पॉइंट आता है वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, इंटरऑपरेटेबिलिटी एंड ओपन एक्सेस. Tokenization or authentication service must be available across all application channels in the same environment. Example, devices or operating system. So what I'm trying to say, What is tokenization? Any idea, guys? What do you understand by the word tokenization? सुना आपने, मैंने पढ़ाया भी आपको. In very simple terms, how we define this word tokenization. See, whenever anyone asks me that, sir, what do you understand by the word tokenization? तो मैं अगर बहुत ही layman language में कहूँ तो tokenization basically means when you use your card details or your account details to make a payment. Let's say you have used your card details and the card details are now stored with your merchant, and whenever you will be making the next payment, without entering the entire information, you will enter only the CVV and you can make the transaction. So tokenization is a process of replacing sensitive data like card number, account detail, UPI ID with a randomly generated surrogate value, which we call as token. So token has no exploitable value outside the specific use case. That means it will reduce the fraud case. For example, you have a card value, you have a card number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of 16 digits. Actual card number is this, but it will be stored as a token like TKN 1234. So that is tokenization. So tokenization results in data security, regulatory compliance, customer trust, as well as fraud reduction. How it works in the banking. So customer initiates a payment or transaction. Token generation is done. Bank or authorized token service provider issues a unique token linked to the customer account. Then the merchant stores not the actual card detail. Merchant only stores the token value or that token number. So when you will be doing the transaction again, your merchant will be sharing that token details with your bank, and bank will map your account details against that token and bank will complete the transaction. So that is a point. Is it clear? Okay. So tokenization is used in case of card tokenization. Merchant cannot store the card numbers. As I said, it is not storing your card numbers. It is storing the token details. Must use card on file tokenization. So saving card on Amazon or Swiggy now stores only a token, not your actual details. Then we have UPI tokenization. We have net banking tokenization. Even we have the CBDC tokenization. Niharika, is it clear? Acha, sorry. 1 second. Fine. I hope the doubt is clear. Chalo. Now the point is tokenization or authentication service must be available across all the applications and channels in the same environment. Means अगर आपके एक device है आपके पास, उस device पे अगर आपके पास एक application में tokenization की service available है, so that should be available on the other applications as well. And the other point which we use here is that is interoperability. How the interoperability term is related in this case? Sir, in this case, interoperability basically means the tokenization or the authentication service cannot be locked into a single device, app or channel. Once implemented, it must work seamlessly across all the applications, devices and operating system in the same environment. Example ये है, if you have tokenized your card on PhonePe, and you're using an Android phone, so the tokenization service must also be available if you use the same card on PhonePe in case of bank application. So that is what I'm trying to say. ठीक है जी? So in the same environment, it should be available. Why interoperability important? Sir, it will result in customer convenience. Customer don't need to re-tokenize separately for every app or maybe for every channel. Market fairness prevents dominance by few fintech or card networks. Regulatory compliance keep payment ecosystem competitive and secure. अब बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि you are making a payment. It says only Visa card is accepted or only Mastercard is accepted. But अगर ये interoperability हो गया, tokenization हो गया, तो उस केस में these kind of I would say monopolies can be overruled with the help of tokenization, which is tried to make, or RBI is trying to make it what? Sir, RBI is trying to make it interoperable. ठीक है जी? Next point. What are the risk-based approach? Issuer can apply risk filters like device attributes. That means कि भैया अगर आप tokenization कर रहे हैं, do it only for this device. My location is this. Bank should identify the behavior pattern as well as historical data. High-risk transaction may require additional checks beyond two-factor authentication. DigiLocker may be explored for confirmation or notification in risky cases. Risky cases हो सकता है वो कहें कि हमने सर आपके ना एक DigiLocker पे पासवर्ड भेजा, ओटीपी भेजा या फिर वहां पे हमें कोड सेंड किया, प्लीज चेक दैट कोड एंड enter that code. So that is beyond the two factors of authentication. What will be the responsibility of the issuer? Sir, issuer, that is bank, if bank is issuing a particular instrument or maybe the card scheme agent which is issuing the cards, so issuer must ensure robustness and integrity of authentication system. If a customer suffers a loss due to the non-compliance with the direction, then issuer must compensate fully without any issue, must also comply with the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. Moving on to the cross-border transaction. So these directions do not apply to the cross-border transaction generally, but for non-recurring cross-border card not present transactions, implement validation will be 1st October 2026. Register bank identification number with card network. Put in place risk-based mechanism for such transaction. That means this two-factor authentication will be available from 1st of October 2026 on the international or cross-border transactions as well. If you remember, what is the limit of cross-border transaction? Or I would say if the limit is cross-border transaction, that is 25 lakh rupees per transaction, this limit is associated to, so this is associated to payment aggregator cross-border, which will be maintaining input as well as output accounts separately and no netting will be done. So I'm just linking that news so that you can remember it. Moving on to the question. The question says, consider the following statement regarding the RBI's authentication mechanism for digital payment transaction directions 2025. All domestic digital payment transactions must use at least two-factor of authentication, one of which must be dynamic unless exempted. That is true. Cross-border card not present transactions are fully covered under these transactions or under these directions applicable from 1st of October 2026. Issuers are mandated to compensate customers in full if the loss occurs due to the authentication non-compliance without any discretion. Issuer जो है, that will be responsible to compensate the entire loss अगर गलती उनके एंड पे हुई है, that is true. Interoperability requires authentication tokenization services to be accessible across all the apps and channels within a given operating environment. That is true. Small value offline payments, recurring payments after the first transaction and select prepaid instruments are among the exemptions from the mandatory point. That is true. ये याद कर लेना. This has not been given in the information. This has been exclusively added in the question only. Remember the C point. So C 1, 3, 4, 5 are correct. Exemptions are also given to you, which was not discussed earlier because I wanted to have a separate point जहाँ पे आप exemptions को याद रखें. It includes small value offline payments, recurring payments after first transaction, select prepaid instruments. Selected prepaid instruments are in the exemption part. Got it, guys? Clear हो गया? समझ आ गया? If you haven't hit the like button yet, quickly hit the like button. Let's move on to the next news. अगली news काफी important है, काफी मजेदार भी है. What is this news all about? I hope we all know that these days banks, they decide their interest rates independently, not only in case of deposit but also in case of loan. In case of loan, RBI provides only and only the methods which are need to be followed by the banks to decide their lending rates, but they decide independently. So earlier we had benchmark prime lending rate. It was replaced by base rate. Base rate was replaced by MCLR and MCLR is now replaced by EBLR. And along with that, when bank provide loans, a bank provide loan of two categories. One we call it as fixed loan, in which the lending rate is prefixed and pre-decided. In case of second, we have floating loan where the lending rate may change or lending rate will change with the change in bank's lending rate, where bank will reset its lending rate depending upon the external factors. For example, these days in case of EBLR, bank has linked its lending rates to repo rate. So in that particular scenario, if RBI changes the repo rate, bank will reset its EBLR value. If the EBLR value changes, the lending rate not only for the new loans, but lending rate for the existing floating loans will also change. That is a point. But if you remember, RBI has come up with the statement that now the customers, they are allowed to shift from floating to fixed or fixed to floating if required, but the number of switches as well as the charges charged during switches will be decided by the board approved policy. तो उसी के ऊपर RBI ने ये particular direction दी है. So please pay attention. As per Banking Regulation Act 1949, RBI Act 1934 and National Housing Act 1987, amendments have been done to these circulars, which you need to remember, effective from 1st of October 2025. Purpose is basically to increase borrower flexibility, allow measured pricing flexibility for banks, clarify switching options at rate reset. So what is rate reset? Have you heard this point earlier? Rate reset, जैसे कि मैंने आपको कहा कि in case of revision done by RBI, अगर RBI ने अपने रेपो रेट को रिवाइज कर दिया, फॉर दैट मैटर अगर RBI ने रेपो रेट को नहीं भी रिवाइज किया, बट आफ्टर फ्यू मंथ्स बैंक रीसेट इट्स EBLR वैल्यू बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स cost of operations, because that is also a part while calculating the final lending rate. So EBLR, as we all know that it was introduced back in 2019, 1st October 2019. Rate reset means how often the loan interest rate is revised in line with changes in the benchmark. So as per RBI guidelines, the reset frequency must be once in 3 months. I repeat, as per RBI guidelines, the reset frequency must be once in 3 months. Bank cannot set longer reset period that disadvantage the borrower. Example is, let's say you have borrowed a home loan which is linked to repo rate. Repo changes in April, so your loan rate will reset in July. That is quarterly basis. If your reset cycle is 3 months, that is what I'm trying to say. ठीक है जी. Now, what is the point we have? Banks may now reduce other spread components earlier than 3 years for a loan category for customer retention, but only on justifiable grounds, non-discriminatory scenarios in terms of the bank's policy. So what is it? So the first change which has been announced is कि सर जो बैंक है बैंक क्या कर सकता है? बैंक कैन नाउ रिवाइज इट्स स्प्रेड रिवाइज करने का मतलब है स्प्रेड के कंपोनेंट्स को रिवाइज करने का मतलब क्या हुआ? एनी आइडिया गाइस? सुनी सुनाई बातें हैं, इसमें भी कुछ नया नहीं है. अगर आप इसको थोड़ा सा सोचेंगे तो शायद आपको समझ आए. चलो मैं आपको बताता हूं. अगर हम बात करते हैं ना, लेंडिंग रेट जब डिसाइड किया जाता है, वन वी हैव इज बेंचमार्क, फॉर एग्जांपल रेपो रेट, अदर वी हैव स्प्रेड. सो स्प्रेड इटसेल्फ हैज 2 पार्ट्स. फर्स्ट इज बिजनेस स्ट्रैटेजी स्प्रेड or credit risk premium, which can vary for each borrower, and second is the other spread components like operating cost, tenure premium. So once fixed, it cannot be changed for 3 years as per the earlier scenarios. So for example, आज बैंक ने कहा कि सर हमारा जो रेपो रेट है, that is RBI का रेपो रेट है 5.5%. ठीक है, इसमें हम ऐड करेंगे स्प्रेड में बैंक ने ऐड किया अपने ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंस, बैंक ने ऐड किए अपने नेगेटिव कैरी ऑन CRR, बैंक ने ऐड किया कॉस्ट ऑफ ऑपरेशन, कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड्स. अगर कॉस्ट ऑफ फंड्स का इंपैक्ट क्या है इन कंपैरिजन टू रेपो रेट, इसे भी इंक्लूड किया, और उसके साथ साथ बैंक ने अपना प्रॉफिट जोड़ा या फिर एक मिनिमम रिटर्न जोड़ा. प्लस बैंक ने कहा कि अगर बोरोवर का रिस्क ज्यादा है तो वी विल ऐड 1%, बोरोवर का रिस्क कम है देन वी विल ऐड 0.5%. मैं समझाने के लिए बता रहा हूं. तो इससे जो आपका रिजल्टेंट EBLR निकल के आया फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर कस्टमर, दैट इज लेट्स से 10.5%. नाउ दिस इज फिक्स्ड. इसमें क्या फिक्स्ड है सर? इसमें ये जो रेपो रेट है ये भले चेंज हो जाए क्योंकि वो तो RBI चेंज कर रहा है, लेकिन आपने ये जो स्प्रेड फिक्स किया है ऑफ 5%, दिस कैनॉट बी रिवाइज्ड फॉर नेक्स्ट 3 years अर्लियर. हाँ, ये हो सकता है कि अगर ये 5.5 से 6.5 हो जाए, then your EBLR will increase from 10.5 to 11.5%. That is true for the existing customers. हो सकता है for the new customer it may vary, but ये जो है spread it should be fixed for 3 years. But RBI ने कहा नहीं. Now we are coming up with a new announcement, and in the new announcement bank can reduce other spread components. Other spread component means not the risk wala part. Other spread components include your operating cost, tenure premium. That is what I'm trying to say. दूसरा जो पार्ट है स्प्रेड का, दैट इज बिजनेस स्ट्रैटेजी स्प्रेड या रिस्क क्रेडिट रिस्क प्रीमियम, that can vary for each borrower and even this can be revised depending upon the risk of the borrower. अगर फ्यूचर में लगा रिस्क और बढ़ गया पहले से, तो हो सकता है कि आपका जो बिजनेस स्ट्रैटेजी या क्रेडिट रिस्क प्रीमियम है उसका स्प्रेड भी इंक्रीज किया जाए. बट द पॉइंट इज other spread components were not allowed. Cost of operations, negative carry on CRR जो आपने इंक्लूड किया या फिर जो आपने tenor premium इंक्लूड किया, that should not be revised before 3 years. But now RBI has announced कि please you can revise it even before 3 years if you want to. If you want to retain your customer, अगर आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कस्टमर हो सकता है कि किसी और बैंक से लोन लेकर मेरा लोन वापस कर दे क्योंकि उसको दूसरे बैंक से लोन सस्ता मिल रहा है, तो क्यों ना मैं अपने ही स्प्रेड को कम कर दूं, जो कि 3 साल का पहले विंडो था या 3 साल का जो पहले लॉक इन था. नाउ दिस हैज बीन रिमूव्ड. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज regulated entities may offer borrowers the choice to switch to a fixed rate at a time of reset. तो जब बैंक रीसेट करेगा अपने रेट्स को, फॉर एग्जांपल ईबीएलआर को बैंक रीसेट कर रहा है क्वार्टरली बेसिस एज वी डिस्कस्ड, तो एक बार क्वार्टर में रीसेट करेगा तब बैंक अपने कस्टमर को चॉइस दे सकता है कि सर अगर आप आज चाहते हैं तो फिक्स में ट्रांसफर कर लो क्योंकि आपका फ्लोटिंग इंटरेस्ट रेट अब से ये होगा, फ्लोटिंग इंटरेस्ट रेट अब से ये होगा, या फिर अगर आप फिक्स में है देन यू कैन गो टू फ्लोटिंग. बट इफ यू आर चेंजिंग योर फिक्स्ड to floating or maybe floating to fixed, in that particular scenario your EMI value will change, and if you are maintaining the same EMI value then हो सकता है कि आपका जो tenure है, time period है, वो change हो जाए depending upon the interest rate. I hope it is clear. So this entire discussion will be applicable from 1st of October. तो 1st of October से क्या क्या है? पहला, बैंक अपने other spread components को अब revise कर सकता है even before 3 years. This is the first point. Second is bank can allow the customer to shift from floating loan to fixed loan at the time of reset. At the time of reset, subject to the, अब रीसेट जब आप करोगे तो कितनी बार रीसेट कर सकते हैं, what will be the charges, that will be decided by the bank's board. That will be decided by the bank board ki how many times you can do the switch, what will be the charges of a switch, so that will be decided by the bank, but उसी के basis पे you can allow to change. अब amendments की अगर हम बात करें, previously the bank could not reduce certain spread elements for a loan category before 3 years, but now they have conditional flexibility to do so. Conditional flexibility is for customer retention, for justifiable scenarios, applied non-discriminationary across similarly situated borrowers as well as accordance with the written bank policy. Practical consequences क्या होंगे? So bank must design a governance framework, board approved policy, documented rationale for reduction, audit trail, and avoid arbitrary or any discriminatory pricing. That is important. Amendment to the circular, अगर हम reset of floating interest rate on EMI based personal loan की बात करें, पहले क्या था? Reset follows circular rules. Switching to fixed was not explicitly given an option in every bank policy, but now onwards every bank will give an option of a floating loan borrower to switch to fixed rate, and switching charges as well as number of switches will be pre-decided as per the banks or as per the regulated entities board approved policy. ठीक है जी, क्लियर होगी ये बात, समझ आ गया? If it is clear, just give me yes sir. If it is clear, just give me yes sir. अब इससे क्या है सर, इसमें कुछ कुछ चीजें हैं कि क्या क्या बेनिफिट्स होंगे, प्रैक्टिकली इंप्लीमेंटेशन क्या है बोरोर के लिए. बोरोर हैज अ मोर चॉइस एट रीसेट, either to hold or to switch, potential to lock rates. If interest rate outlook is uncertain, you can go to fixed. Need to read regulated entities board approved policy for charges and limits on switching. In case of bank, it will act as a retention rule. It will come up with a governance and compliance burden because board approved policies need to be framed, then it does need to be implemented. Pricing and risk management need to manage the interest rate risk if many switch to fixed, and accounting asset liability management implications. तो ये एक बर्डन भी आ गया बैंक के ऊपर. रेगुलेटर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखें, इट बैलेंसेस कस्टमर प्रोटेक्शन विद बैंक्स फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी एंड इट रिक्वायर्स मॉनिटरिंग कि भैया किसी ने अपनी मर्जी से जानबूझ के किसी को फायदा देने के लिए इंटेंशनली तो उसका लोन या उसका लेंडिंग रेट कम नहीं किया या उसको इंटेंशनली शिफ्ट तो नहीं किया फिक्स से, दैट शुड नॉट बी डन, या इंटेंशनली उसके लिए अपने अदर स्प्रेड कंपोनेंट्स कम तो नहीं किया, दैट शुड बी चेक्ड बाय द रेगुलेटर। तो रेगुलेटर का भी काम बड़ा, बट एंड ऑफ द डे फायदा किसका हुआ? सब फायदा हुआ हमारा, यानी कि कस्टमर का। ठीक है जी। तो बोर्ड अप्रूवल्स रिक्वायर्ड है, पॉलिसी कंटेंट, सिस्टम एंड ऑपरेशंस चाहिए, कस्टमर कम्युनिकेशन होनी चाहिए, ट्रेनिंग देनी पड़ेगी सेल्स टीम को, क्रेडिट टीम को, कलेक्शन टीम को, ब्रांच स्टाफ को, कंप्लायंस एंड ऑडिट, इंटरनल ऑडिट करना होगा periodically to review adherence as well as non-discrimination and go live from 1st of October 2025। तो ये पूरी कहानी है। आई होप इट इज क्लियर, इजी थी। दो ही पॉइंट है, एक 3 साल वाला पॉइंट है और एक रीसेट के समय आप फ्लोटिंग से फिक्स्ड लोन पे मूव कर सकते हैं। बैंक आपको हर रीसेट पे ये पावर देगा, देन यू कैन यूज दिस पावर एज पर दी RBI, एज पर दी बैंक अप्रूव्ड पॉलिसीज, एज पर दी बैंक बोर्ड अप्रूव्ड पॉलिसीज, जहां पे चार्जेस और स्विचेस प्री डिफाइंड। क्लियर हो गया? गिव मी अ थम्स अप। अरे मजा आ रहा है। अब लग रहा है कि पीछे जो पढ़ा था इतने समय से, फ्रॉम सो लॉन्ग वी आर रीडिंग सो मेनी circulars on regular basis, now you must be thinking कि this is very easy, it's easy to cover, I can easily understand this, it is not possible because of me कि मैंने बहुत easily आपको ये समझा दिया। नहीं, it is possible because you have attended my previous sessions, you are well aware of all the previous circulars and that is the reason you are able to relate it pretty well। ठीक है जी, चलो let's try to solve a question। Let's try to solve a question. Give me a second. Chali, the question says the amendment permits banks to reduce other spread components. Other spread components, I again repeat, which include tenor premium, which include cost of operation, that is the part, for a loan category earlier than 3 years for the purpose of customer retention, provided such reduction is justified, that is correct. Regulated entities are mandated to offer borrower the option to switch to a fixed interest rate at every reset of floating EMI based personal loan. So if you have a floating and that to term loan, that is EMI based equated monthly installment based personal loan, then you will be getting this particular benefit, then you will be getting this I would say particular power to enjoy this. Yes or no? Regulated entities are mandated, say yes or no. Second statement is correct? Sir, it is wrong. Second statement is wrong. क्यों wrong है? देखना जरा। Regulated entity may provide a choice to the borrowers to switch, but this is optional for regulated entities and must be governed by regulated entity board approved policy. The policy may also specify the maximum number of switches allowed during a tenure. तो क्या ये point सही हुआ? Sir, it is not mandate, it is optional, so may would be correct. A bank board approved policy may specify the number of times, that is true. Amendment have been issued under these acts, that is true. So answer is going to be B option. जो ऑप्शन आपको देखते सबसे अच्छा लग रहा था कि ये बिल्कुल करेक्ट है, वही रॉन्ग निकला, बाकी सारे ऑप्शंस करेक्ट है। तो ऐसी गलती एग्जामिनेशन में मत कीजिए। Moving on to the next news. What does the next news say? So the next news is related to gold. The next news is related to gold loans. Gold loans related भी अगर आपको याद हो तो we have already discussed two things. First one, in case a loan is borrowed, which is a collateral free loan, borrowed for the purpose of agriculture, we call it as agriculture loan, where we have a limit of 2 lakh rupees. In that particular case, gold given as collateral is not required. It is 100% customer's choice. Customer want to give the gold as collateral in order to enjoy the benefits from the bank. That can be done, but bank cannot ask the customer to provide, because this is basically a non-collateral or without collateral loan which is provided. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया? सिंपल है, ये हमने पहले पढ़ा था। अब उसके साथ फिर हमने एक चीज और पढ़ी। In case of gold loan, there are certain limits in terms of loan to value, 85%, 80% याद होगा, as well as this 85%, 80% will be related to what gold values, कितनी weight of gold पे आप लोन ले सकते हो, all those points we have discussed. उसी में कुछ कुछ चीजें चेंज हुई हैं, जल्दी से पढ़ लेते हैं, देखना जरा. So RBI has always been very particular about the lending against primary gold due to speculative nature. However, gold jewelry, ornament, coins, and now the silver ornaments have been allowed as a collateral for loans to meet short-term needs. Regulation earlier existed in a fragmented manner for banks, NBFCs, cooperative banks, but 2025 consolidated all earlier guidelines into a uniform principle-based framework applicable to all regulated entities. So, जो हम discuss करेंगे, it is applicable to all. First, it was introduced in June, which we have already discussed. Now, there has been an amendment, first amendment into this particular direction, and that is done in September 2025, which must be implemented from 1st of April 2026. Now, scope is it applies to loan against eligible collateral, that is gold or silver jewelry, ornaments, coins, and it is applicable on commercial banks excluding payment banks क्योंकि वो लोन देते नहीं, urban and rural cooperative banks as well as all NBFCs including housing finance companies. So eligible collateral, primary, gold or silver, bullet repayment. I hope you remember this bullet repayment. So bullet repayment means when you make your outstanding principal and interest repayment at one go to close your account to complete your loan outstanding, we call it as bullet repayment. Top-up loan means additional loan on the existing collateral. Consumption loan is personal loan, not income generating. That means you are purchasing a loan to buy fridge, to buy car, but not for income generation purpose. Income generation loan is loan borrowed for farm, business or asset creation. That will be the part of income generating loan. अब general conditions क्या है? Sir, each lender must define the credit policy which will cover the single borrower की कितनी limit होगी, what will be the maximum loan to value ratio, valuation standards and purity norms, documentation for priority sector lending eligibility. Credit assessment will be done if the loan value is greater than 2.5 lakh rupees. Renewals or top-up loans allowed only if loan is standard. Standard means the loan repayment is done on time. It is in the standard asset category and within the loan to value limit. Bullet loans can be renewed only after interest payments. So if you want to renew the bullet loans, that can be renewed only after the interest payments. Restrictions. First one, no loan for purchase of gold or silver or gold backed assets will be given. No lending against primary gold or silver will be given. No repledging of gold received from borrowers will be done. Exceptions क्या है? Working capital loan for manufacturing using gold or silver. अगर आप gold या silver को use कर रहे हैं as a raw material, then only you can borrow the loan. Then only you can borrow the loan against this case. The next is weight restriction. Gold ornament up to 1 kg. Silver ornament up to 10 kgs. Gold coin up to 50 grams. Silver coins up to 500 grams. Tenure cap is bullet repayment loan for consumption purpose, maximum 12 months. Valuation and loan to value. Valuation is based on the SEBI commodity exchange prices. First is lower of a 30-day average or maybe the previous day closing price used. या तो 30 day का average use हो सकता है या फिर previous day का जो closing price है that will be used. अगर आपने आज 1 kg गोल्ड दिया बैंक को तो उसका प्राइस बैंक डिसाइड करेगा इन दोनों के किसी एक मेथड के बेसिस पे, इन दोनों में से किसी एक के बेसिस पे. अब अगर हम बात करें only in-centric metal value considered, obviously जो stones हैं, gems हैं in your jewelry, that will be excluded while calculating the value. There are revisions which have been done related to the loan to value ratio. If you remember, loan to value ratio का क्या मतलब होता है सर? Loan to value ratio का मतलब है value of loan divided by security value, which means if your loan value is, let's say, if your gold value is, let's say, 5 lakhs, then what will be the loan value? So that is less than or equals to 85% if your loan value is 2.5 lakhs. If your loan value is above 2.5 lakhs, this will be 80%. यानी 10 लाख के 5 लाख के लोन पे 4 लाख का लोन और अगर आपने 10 लाख का गोल्ड देकर लोन लिया, that will be 75%, which means 7.5 lakh rupees of loan will be given. So it must be maintained throughout the loan tenure. तो पूरे के पूरे loan tenure में this is need to be maintained. Clear हो गई बात? Conduct related aspects uniform. Valuation procedure will be done. Borrower must be present during assessing the loan value. Standardize loan documents and communication in regional language, and mandatory collateral certificate with purity, gross or net weight, deduction, valuation, and photos will also be given to the borrower, and it will be kept with the lender as well. Now, collateral management, safe storage in branches only. Surprise audits हो सकती है. Collateral release should be done within same day or maximum within 7 working days on the completion of the loan. Auction process, transparent procedure with public notice and newspaper ads कि भैया आपका लोन अगर एनपीए हो गया, लॉस एसेट, और एनपीए होने के बाद बैंक ऑक्शन कर सकता है आपके गोल्ड की. फर्स्ट ऑक्शन इन द सेम डिस्ट्रिक्ट एज ब्रांच, जो ब्रांच है जिसने लोन दिया, in the same district in which that branch is situated, in the same district auction will be done. Reserve price is greater than or equals to current value. So reserve price is greater than or equals to current value or greater than or equal to 85% if two failures. Means if the gold value is 10 lakhs today, then your reserve price is कि we are ready to give this loan at minimum 9 lakhs, rest will be decided through auction. पर अगर 2 time failure हो गया, so minimum ask is 8.5 lakhs, rest will be decided through auction. Surplus after auction refund within 7 working days. Surplus का मतलब, let's say you have borrowed a loan of 10 lakhs against a gold of 15 lakhs. You have paid 7 lakh rupees. Only 3 lakh is left plus interest. Let's say outstanding value is 5 lakh rupees. तो बैंक क्या करेगा? 5 लाख रख के बाकी के 10 लाख आपको दे देगा. Surplus will be paid to the borrower itself. That is a point. Lender और related parties, they are barred from participating. जो lender है या उनकी related parties हैं, they cannot participate in the auction. Compensation rule, damage repair cost borne by lender. अगर आपकी ज्वेलरी है वो डैमेज हो गई तो उसकी रिपेयर कॉस्ट बैंक बेयर करेगा. Lender must compensate the borrower loss if any loss to the jewelry or any loss to your collateral or the security is done by the bank. Compensation rules, delay in collateral release, 5,000 rupees per day compensation will be given. Unclaimed collateral, if unclaimed greater than 2 years after repayment, must be reported to the customer service committee or board. तो अगर आपने लोन का रीपेमेंट कर दिया but you haven't claimed your gold back, then in that particular case after 2 years, if unclaimed for greater than 2 years, then it will be reported to the customer service committee or board. Other instruction, no misleading ad, disbursement directly to the borrower account. Strict checks on the multiple loans should be done by the RBI, by the bank. These are the conditions. Easy guys, clear है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. तो ये मैंने पूरे का पूरा एक शॉर्ट, जैसे मैं कहता हूं अपनी भाषा में, this is a helicopter view of the entire news. Please read it, and if you have any doubt, you can ask. Let's try to solve the question. 1 second. आज आंसर्स स्क्रीन पर ही रह गए. 1 second. Loan against primary gold or silver, or the purchase of loan against primary gold or silver, or for the purchase of gold backed financial assets are strictly prohibited except for manufacturing, which are using, for the manufacturers who are using the gold as collateral. That is true. That is true. The maximum loan to value ratio is 85% up to 2.5 lakhs, reducing as we go up. That is true. The total weight of gold coins accepted as a collateral from a borrower cannot exceed 100 grams. Gold coins cannot exceed 50 grams. So this is wrong. Any delay in the release, 5,000 rupees compensation. That is true. The auction reserve value will be 90% of the current value. It will be 90% of the current value. So fifth is also wrong. So answer is going to be 1, 2, 4. A option is correct. समझ आ गई बात? Clear हो गया जी? If you have any doubt, you may ask, please. If you have any doubt, you may ask, please. Enjoying? Sure. Let's move on to the last news. Last news is again important as well as interesting. I'm pretty sure you are going to enjoy the discussion. So be with me I'll take 10 more minutes to complete this particular session. So firstly guys, I hope you all are very well aware of the Basel norms, and in the Basel III it was very clearly given that banks' capital will be defined in three categories. One we call it as tier 1 capital, other one we call it as additional tier 1 capital, and the second one we call it as tier 2 capital. ठीक है जी. अब उस केस में we have a condition that banks capital adequacy ratio should be 9% as per RBI, और उसमें भी condition है at least 5.5% of RWA should come from tier 1, 1.5% should come from additional tier 1, and 2% of RWA should come from tier 2 capital. अब ये जो tier 1 capital है, what all things, or I would say what all sources are included, in tier 1 capital, then my answer to this particular question is, so tier 1 capital include what? So it include your core capital, it include your paid up capital, core capital, paid up capital, whatever you say. Then it includes share premium. Whenever you're issuing the shares, the premium you earn on the shares. Then we have statutory reserves, that will be the part. Then capital reserves which you have earned from sale of fixed asset, from the sale of assets, that will be included, as well as the disclosed reserves, the reserves which you have disclosed. And lastly, we have the profit and loss statement balance. If it is positive or negative, it will be the part of tier 1. In case of additional tier 1, we include perpetual non-convertible preference shares. We include perpetual debt instruments. And lastly, in case of tier 2, we include general provisions plus loan reserves. We include investment reserves. We include excess provisions from sale of NPA, as well as we include counter-cyclical provisioning, debt capital instruments, and many other. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे क्या पॉइंट आया, द न्यूज जहाँ से पूरी कहानी शुरू हुई, वो कहानी क्या है? सर वो कहानी ये है कि एज पर द बेसल 3 norms, where you have to maintain the tier 1, additional tier 1, tier 2 capital, and then you need to maintain the capital adequacy ratio. So in that particular case, there is a point which is really very important, and the point says that in case of tier 1, in case of additional tier 1, the foreign currency debt instruments, or I would say the overseas rupee instrument. What is overseas rupee instrument? Sir, overseas rupee instrument means when you issue the debt instrument, in rupee denomination, but it is issued outside India, we call it as masala bonds. तो अब अगर बैंक है, बैंक can purchase or bank can borrow the funds from the public. Bank can borrow the funds from the public through the masala bonds, and even bank can borrow the funds from the public through the foreign currency perpetual debt instruments. Earlier the limit was कि आपकी जितनी भी total tier 1 capital है, उसका maximum 49% can come from perpetual debt instrument, but now this norm has been revised. अब इस norm को revise किया गया. Let's try to decode it. So banks are required to maintain minimum regulatory capital under the Basel III capital regulations, tier 1, additional tier 1, tier 2 capital. Perpetual debt instrument पे बात करेंगे. First, this is tier 1 capital, this is tier 2 capital, this is additional tier 1 capital. I hope सारी कहानी मैं आपको बता चुका हूं. अब समझते हैं what is perpetual debt instrument. As the name suggests, perpetual debt instrument, it is an instrument which has no expiry, or it is an instrument which has no maturity, which means a debt instrument which is issued with no maturity, which is issued for infinite time, which is issued for very long time. मतलब मैंने आपसे कहा एक debt instrument मैंने issue किया that I want 10,000 rupees at a rate of interest of 10% for 10 years. This is with definite time. I'm issuing a debt instrument where I say I want to borrow 10,000 rupees at a rate of interest of 10% per annum for 99 years. So this is perpetual instrument, and after 99 years, this instrument will not be reimbursed, or it will not be what we call it as redeemed. This instrument will not be redeemed after 10 years. ऐसा नहीं है कि 99 years के बाद आप उस instrument को वापस करोगे तो company will give you the principal back. No, company will not pay you even single penny. Company is saying कि भैया हमने आपको 100 साल हर साल 100 सालों के लिए हर साल 10% interest दिए. That was what committed under the perpetual debt instrument. So perpetual debt instruments are the class of debt instruments issued by banks to raise the capital. They do not have a maturity, perpetual in nature. They carry characteristics of both equity and debt, hence called hybrid. PDIs qualify as additional tier 1 under the Basel III capital regulation. So जो PDI है, that is perpetual debt instruments, are included in the category of additional tier 1 as per Basel III norms. Additional tier 1 capital is a part of tier 1 capital which represents the highest quality capital. PDI strengthen the bank's capital without diluting the ownership. तो इससे बैंक की कैपिटल क्या हो गई? स्ट्रेंथन हो गई. इससे बैंक की कैपिटल स्ट्रेंथन हो गई, बट बैंक की जो ओनरशिप है वो डाइल्यूट नहीं हुई. मतलब आपने पैसा रेज कर लिया, कैपिटल आ गया, बट दैट इज अ डेट. यू हैव नॉट liquidated your equity, you have not I would say diluted your equity. So they are designed to absorb losses before depositor or senior creditors are affected, ensuring financial stability. So they are designed to absorb losses before depositors or senior creditors are affected. Depositor से पहले, senior creditor से पहले अगर effect होगा तो that will be an effect on the perpetual debt instruments. Key features: no maturity. It can be callable. That means bank can call, make the repayment and buy back the instrument after 5 years. Loss absorption may be written down or converted into equity in times of stress as per the agreement. Coupon payment. So these are the discretionary, that is bank can skip them without being classified as default. So this is basically the interest which you have to pay. Then we have the insurance channels. Banks can issue PDI in, so where bank can issue these PDIs, a bank in PDIs को issue कर सकता है foreign currency raising capital from the international investors, as well as bank can issue the masala bonds, that is rupee denominated masala bonds outside India in order to raise the funds, but the raising of the funds will be done in the INR denomination, which will help banks to avoid foreign currency exchange risk. Now, regulatory cap is, since ATI capital is critical, RBI has capped how much of these overseas PDI can be included. So this ensures bank do not over rely on the volatile foreign investor. And what is the limit? So the limit is 49% of authorized tier 1 capital value. So what is the limit? Sir, earlier the limit was 49% of the authorized tier 1 capital, but now RBI has revised it recently. Now RBI says that from 1st October onwards, PDI issued in foreign currency or rupee denominated bonds overseas shall be eligible for inclusion in the authorized, in the additional tier 1 capital up to 1.5% of risk weighted asset. So I don't care what is your additional tier 1 value, जितनी भी आपके बैंक का risk weighted asset है उसका 1.5% is equals to maximum can be coming from PDI, not beyond that. Maximum can come from perpetual debt instrument, not beyond that. So it will be effective from 1st of October 2025. Why it is important? So strict limits. It will link to RWA rather than the total additional tier 1 value. RWA are much larger than the additional tier 1 capital. So the absolute percentage 1.5% is smaller and tighter. RWA reflects the risk profile of the bank. I hope आपको पता है ना RWA क्या होता है? Risk weighted asset, that is sum of risk. That is the sum of risk on each and every asset of the bank. Financial stability, foreign capital flows can be volatile. ये इसका एक financial stability issue है. The new cap reduces the vulnerability to the external shocks in the banking sector. Example देख लो. Let's say the total RWA of a bank is 10 lakh crores. Additional tier 1 capital is 80,000 crores. Earlier, cap on PDI was 49%, that is 39,200 crores. But now it is 1.5% of, not tier 1, 1.5% of RWA, which comes out to be 1.5% of 10 lakhs, comes out to be only 15,000 crore rupees. So the new limit is much tighter, ensuring greater reliance on domestic and stable capital resources in case of additional tier 1 capital as per the Basel norms. ठीक है जी, तो ये है कहानी बेसल नॉर्म्स की जो मैं आपको कह रहा था. 5.5, 1.5, 2%, then we have capital conservation buffer, and this is how we calculate the entire value. Clear हो गया जी? Is it clear guys? Is it clear? May I have a reply please? चलो क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करें. रीड आउट द क्वेश्चन एंड गिव मी द आंसर्स. Under the revised norms effective 1st October 2025, the inclusion of PDI issued in foreign currency or rupee denominated bonds overseas, ATI, that is additional tier 1 capital, is capped at 1.5% of RWA. That is true. Earlier 2021 framework allowed such instruments up to 49%. That is true. That is true. The new cap is considered more liberal than 2021 framework as it expands the scope of PDI issuance overseas. No, sir, it's not expanding the scope, it is rather decreasing the scope of issuing the same. So third statement is not correct. The new directions are issued under Banking Regulation Act 1949. That is correct. 2025 directions will apply to all the scheduled commercial banks. True, but not to the payment banks. क्यों payment banks है ना? But not to the payment banks. Is this a case? देखो जरा, अगर हम एप्लीकेबिलिटी की बात करें आई थिंक आई हैव नॉट मेंशन दैट पॉइंट, है ना. एप्लीकेबिलिटी वाला पॉइंट शायद मैंने डिस्कशन में मेंशन नहीं किया, बट इट्स ओके. Fifth statement is wrong, remember that. Fifth statement is wrong, remember that. मिस हो गया वो पॉइंट, कहीं लिखा ही नहीं. ठीक है जी. So in that particular context, what will be the correct answer? 1, 2 and 4 are correct. So A option is the correct answer. चलिए, I hope each and every point is clear. If you have any doubt, you may ask please. Don't forget to like the session before leaving. Let's conclude the discussion. I will be catching you all in the upcoming sessions to go. Done guys? Shall we conclude? Counterparty credit risk, ये भी Basel III. Yes, counterparty credit risk जो word है, अगर मैं कहूँ credit risk जो term है, that was introduced in Basel I only. Credit risk was introduced in Basel I only, but in Basel II there was a point कि सर Basel I में बैंक के होने वाले, बैंक के ऊपर जो रिस्क है सारे इंक्लूड नहीं किए गए. Therefore in Basel II they increased from credit risk to market risk, liquidity risk. फिर later on in Basel III all the risks were already included in Basel II, but in Basel III they have expanded the vision of maintaining the capital. For example, they have defined the capital into 3 categories: tier 1, additional tier 1, tier 2 capital. First, they introduce capital conservation buffer in Basel III. Counter cyclical conservation buffer was also introduced in Basel III. Counter cyclical capital buffer was also introduced in Basel III. Net stable funding ratio, liquidity coverage ratio, leverage ratio, these all were introduced in Basel III only. 11 अक्टूबर तक पढ़ना चाहिए बस, उससे आगे बिल्कुल नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए. ठीक है जी. अनिकेत क्लियर हो गया बेटा? क्लियर हो गया? क्रेडिट रिस्क तो सारे बेसल का पार्ट है, बट बेसल 1 में सिर्फ क्रेडिट था, बेसल 2 में बाकी रिस्क को इंक्लूड किया गया. ओके जी, थैंक यू सो मच, गुड लक, गॉड ब्लेस यू ऑल, कैच यू सून, बाय बाय.